Thank you all for your presence here today, and appreciate your service with the VA. I am disappointed, obviously, that the VA is taking a position against what I think is not only common sense legislation, but legislation that has been brought to us by veterans, for veterans, that are unnecessarily being denied the assistance that they need to access the disability compensation system. And as I said in my opening statement, I have a constituent, Denny Hart, Chief Warrant Officer, U.S. Army, volunteers his time. He's dedicated to his fellow veteran. That's how he deals with his own issues as he works with these other veterans. He's not a scammer. He's not in any way preying on any of these other veterans. He's helping other veterans. And I don't understand why the VA would take the position, Dr. Lorente, that we should deny veterans who have legitimate disability claims, deny them the benefit of a fellow veteran who is acting in good faith and on their behalf, volunteering to help them, and he has some level of expertise in understanding the process, helping them. And by denying him the ability to access these DBQs and help these other veterans, these veterans are not getting the disability benefits to which they are entitled. So can you speak to this and why you wouldn't be open to accommodating someone like Denny Hart helping other veterans in Central Kentucky by denying them access to a DBQ?
Thank you, Mr. Barr. I'm going to ask Ms. Murphy to respond to your questions.
Okay, sure. And Ms. Murphy.
Good afternoon. It's critical to have.
I think you need
make sure your microphone's
You're
on,
right.
ma'am.
Thank you. It's critical to have the support of folks, as you described, to help our veterans file their claims, understand the process, and we have that great support by veteran service organizations, attorneys, a lot of veteran advocates. We couldn't do it without them.
Right.
But the piece here that we're focused on is the ability to have the outward-facing, public-facing
Right.
disability benefit questionnaires so that they can take them to their doctors. We've talked earlier about that good data drives good policy, and we have engaged in that recently in the very critical decision to discontinue making these available.
Well, how can you guarantee that veterans, especially in rural areas, and I represent a number of rural areas there, how can you guarantee that they would have equal access to providers in the contract examination program as they would to their own medical provider?
So, sir, the bill we spoke of earlier from Mr. Boss, with that flexibility, that will help. Also, we already have multiple processes in place. We have a private medical record retrieval contract that within less than 2 weeks, if you say, here are my doctor has private treatment records that would be relevant, we will go get those for you. If you need an exam, it's part of our duty to assist to provide that exam. And we have expanded this contract exam program significantly to have that saturation. And I will say, these DBQs were originally created. I helped champion this initiative to solve a problem that we had overseas where there was no footprint from VA.
Yeah.
Now we have 33 countries covered by this contract.
Well, we're still not getting, I mean, the Office of Inspector General issued a report after it received a hotline tip that a contracted disability medical exam provider in California did not have the capacity to complete scheduled exams, and that VBA staff were canceling these exams and rescheduling them through other contractors. A canceled exam can result in adverse decision on veterans' claims, to delay veterans' benefits, and result in additional costs. We're just giving you additional manpower here with this idea. I don't have much time left, but I want to address the other issue that my legislation attempts to address, and this is this unfortunate situation where because you have an updated DBQ form, the veteran can't rely on a previously filled out form, and it's caused a whole lot of frustration, as you can imagine, when they go through all the work to submit the DBQ, and because of some just arbitrary bureaucratic update to the form, all of that work is down the drain and they have to start from scratch. I had one veteran, a constituent, who literally quit the process. He was eligible for the disability benefit, but because of the frustration of having to refill out these forms over and over again, that just doesn't make sense. That's a bureaucratic impediment to getting these veterans the benefits they deserve. So I do want you all to consider that, whether you support the legislation or not. We need flexibility, and these veterans need to be able to rely on the forms when they fill it out. So well, with that, I'm out of time, but I thank you for your service and your consideration of my arguments here, and I yield back.
Thank you, sir.
Recognize Ms. Lauria for 5 minutes.
Well, thank you. Mr. Barr, I was about to follow up with the same line of questioning as you. So I'd like to offer to yield back to you if you'd like to continue or seek an answer from Ms. Murphy on your last comment.
Well, thank you, Congresswoman Luria, and I will yield to Ms. Murphy just to respond to that topic.
Yeah, sir. So the primary reason we're updating these disability benefit questionnaires is because we're updating all 15 body systems in our rating schedule for the first time since 1945. This is long overdue, and it's necessary to improve the policy and to recognize improvements in medicine, technology, science, and modernize the rating schedule. So these are necessary updates. You mentioned the IG report. They told us that we needed to take a look at this because of the predatory practices, the almost 500 referrals with concern about abusive business practices, potential fraud on these veterans. So we really...
I share that concern, by the way, and I accept what you're saying totally. We don't want these veterans to be subject to those kinds of practices. But why can't you just go after them, focus on them? Don't exclude veteran volunteers like Denny Hart. I mean, roll up the sleeves and do the work and root out all the bad actors, but keep the good actors in place who are actually helping our veterans. And I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I appreciate that. I'll yield back.
Well, thank you. And I wanted to follow that same line. I mean, in your testimony, you do suggest that there are other ways to go after the bad actors, potentially using technology and software systems that would allow other authorized providers access to these forms. But the truth is, even as a veteran who needs to go have this exam, seeing the form, understanding what the criteria are and what information is required into the form is necessary information. And I feel like it's being locked away in some sort of secret vault and only certain people can have it and share it with the veteran. Don't you think the veteran deserves to see the DBQ before they consider having an examination for a follow-on claim?
It could be helpful, but not necessary. Again, it's our duty to assist to provide the exam, and we're doing that through our VHA partners and our contracting partners. The information is contained in the rating schedule in Part 4 of 38 CFR if someone wanted to take a look at it. I will say that we have the data historically that shows that only 1.6% of claims we receive have a public use DBQ associated, and only 4% have been submitted by a treating physician. So these are being provided by people who aren't.
So is that 4% per year?
Overall.
Overall. So you can't give me 4% of a number. I mean, that would be thousands of veterans over all time. Is that correct?
Well, I believe it was a sampling we took of those received. So 1.6% of the, of the total, all of the process, building in a mechanism so that we can go after these folks that we don't have. We've asked IG to assist us with this. They've been unsuccessful in shutting this down, building an IT system for a very small percentage. We believe that it's good stewardship to use those resources in a way that we can more directly fulfill our duty to assist rather than go this other route.
And that seems like a sudden change, though, in direction, because these forms were available, and then all of a sudden they weren't available. So can you explain what took place that you withdrew them from the public?
I'd be happy to. We, as I said, we've made many referrals to IG. We took a look at the data to make these data-driven policy decisions. We had several, at least 3 or 4 collaborative sessions with the primary VSOs, led by our Principal Deputy Undersecretary, to talk through the issues, the concerns, what solutions there could be. And while I acknowledge that some folks might not agree with this, this is good policy being driven by the data and taking care of veterans and good stewardship. That's what you entrust us to do. And Congress has also given us the solution that we didn't have when we started with these DBQs, which was to reach veterans overseas and in rural areas where we had no solution. this contract authority that Congress has provided has obviated the need for those private-facing DBQs.
Well, thank you. Thanks for your response. I yield back.
Recognize Mr.